As they chatted, the doctor received a call and left with his mother to address another matter. Watching her leave, the man felt a profound sense of security. Her strength and determination shielded him from his burdens, if only for a moment. He relaxed, savoring the sweetness of the grapes she had brought. But just as he began to find peace, his body shook violently, and the world around him shifted once more. The scene shifted once again, and the man found himself back in the preparation room. The unsettling events from before had left him conflicted, and his thoughts lingered on how to outwit the domineering figure he referred to as Baldy. As his surroundings came into focus, he noticed the man, who seemed to be in charge, standing nearby with a displeased expression. Around them, the attendants huddled together, their heads bowed as if trying to avoid attention. The man in charge flipped his filthy hand, revealing something strange resting in his palm. It was a black, slimy substance that appeared alive, squirming slightly with each movement. Its movements made peculiar sounds, like the faint noise of a toad licking its eyes. The sight was unsettling, and the man who observed it couldn't help but feel confused. For a moment, he questioned his own understanding of the situation. Wasn't the plan to use the pale woman for some kind of pill refinement? Why had things taken such an unexpected turn? The situation seemed to deviate from what he had anticipated, leaving him unsure of what to do next. Breaking the silence, he hesitated but decided to ask, "What is that, master?" With a smug tone, the other man replied, "This? It's something valuable. Black Tai Sui. You wouldn't understand its worth." Hearing this response, the man was left both curious and wary. He wasn't sure what the strange substance was, or why it was significant, but he could sense that it held a dark and mysterious purpose. The atmosphere in the room felt heavier as he continued to stare at the wriggling object, unsure of what would happen next. His mind raced, torn between fear, suspicion, and the need to keep playing along in this unpredictable and dangerous world. The room felt tense as the cold voice of the man in charge echoed, introducing the strange object as Black Tai Sui. The young man tilted his head slightly, inspecting the disgusting creature in the other man's hand. It resembled the thing he had seen in the black cauldron before, slimy, alive, and unnervingly similar. The man holding it suddenly flicked his wrist, and the wriggling creature flew through the air, landing on the young man's foot. Its sticky, soft texture made his legs tremble involuntarily, and he quickly backed away in shock. He looked from the dust-covered creature on the floor to the man who had thrown it, confusion written all over his face. With a commanding tone, the man declared it a reward. He insisted the young man swallow it, claiming it would help him control his condition. The young man's face turned pale, and he stepped back, shouting, "I won't eat it! I'm not sick!" Ignoring his protests, the man signaled to two others, who approached swiftly and restrained the young man by his arms. Helpless, he watched as the creature was retrieved and brought closer to him. Fear gripped his entire body, making him tremble uncontrollably. He struggled to break free, but the hands holding him were unyielding. Just as panic reached its peak, the world shifted. A soft, familiar voice called out to him, cutting through his fear. He opened his eyes to see a kind young woman in a white sweater standing before him. Overwhelmed, he rushed to her, holding her tightly as if she were his lifeline. She gently pushed back, her cheeks slightly red, whispering, "Let go, they're watching." Looking around, he saw his mother smiling nearby and felt a sense of calm wash over him. The bright sunlight streamed into a clean hospital room, grounding him in reality. The attending doctor approached, concern in his voice, asking about the young man's hallucination. The doctor then prescribed medication, warning him that true recovery required more than just pills. It needed commitment to treatment. The young man nodded, desperate for a break from the torment of his mind. For now, the warmth of his family and the promise of temporary relief brought him a fragile sense of hope. The man rushed to grab the blue capsules from the nurse, swallowing them dry without any water. He desperately wanted peace, trying to escape the terrifying memories of the earlier events. Though the capsules felt sticky and unpleasant, he forced them down, hoping for some relief. The doctor, noticing his state, asked gently, "What did you see in your hallucination that scared you so much?" The man managed a weak smile and replied, Nothing much. Someone just claimed his world was real and this one was fake. As soon as he spoke, everything around him shifted. The air grew heavy and the bright hospital room dimmed unnaturally. His loved ones who had felt so real moments ago suddenly froze in place. Panic set in as he looked out the window to find the sunny sky replaced by a pitch-black void. In desperation, he pushed the young woman nearby toward his mother, seeking comfort. But when they touched, his mother's body dissolved into nothing, like a fragile bubble popping. The man froze in horror as the young woman also faded before his eyes. All the warmth and safety he had clung to disappeared, leaving him alone in crushing despair. The hospital walls dissolved into darkness, and he found himself back in a shadowy cavern. Kneeling on the cold ground, his body trembled as he struggled to scream, but his voice was blocked by something squirming in his throat. The same slimy object from before. His silent agony consumed him. The elder watched from a distance, hands behind his back, shaking his head. You say you're not sick, but look at yourself. Your illness is worse than anyone's here. Get your medication monthly and don't slack off. With that, he left, followed by the others. The remaining group, each marked by strange afflictions, exchanged uncertain glances, unsure of what to do. The man finally swallowed the object in his throat, his screams echoing through the cavern. He cried out in anguish, questioning why he was trapped in such a cruel reality and why his torment never seemed to end. The man lay curled up in the corner of the room, unmoving and silent, as if the world around him didn't exist. The others nearby went about their tasks quietly, avoiding him. Night came, and the room was engulfed in darkness. In the middle of the night, a faint candlelight appeared at the entrance. A timid figure approached, carrying dried grass. She gently covered the man with it and placed a small, coarse bun near his mouth, whispering, "Please eat something. You haven't eaten all day." The man's vacant eyes remained fixed on the ground. He didn't react, even when nudged. Hesitant, she took out a small jade pendant and placed it in his hand, saying softly, "This is yours. Please take it back." Finally, the man looked at the pendant. It was something he had once given away, and the memory of it brought back a sharp ache in his heart. He asked in a low voice, "How did you get this?" She explained how it came to her, and under the dim light, the man studied the jade, lost in thought. Reality felt painfully sharp now, filled with despair and suffering. He longed for the comforting illusion he had left behind. When she gently asked where he was from, the man could only shake his head, uncertain of what was real anymore. His memories, fragmented and unreliable, left him questioning his sanity. As he touched his head, he found dried blood in his hair. She explained it was caused by someone who had tried to harm her earlier, and that he had stopped the attacker in a moment of fury. Hearing this, the man chuckled bitterly, thinking of how deeply madness had consumed him. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a golden anklet and offered it to her, saying, "Take this back." She refused, pushing it back toward him, explaining it had no use here. Then, she made a heartfelt request, her voice trembling with emotion. She asked him to carry a message to her parents if he ever escaped this place alive, telling them she couldn't fulfill her duties as their daughter. Hearing her words, the man, who had been drowning in despair, felt a spark of determination in his silent eyes. He made a decision, one that brought a glimmer of purpose to his otherwise hopeless state. The man glanced at the dried grass covering him and the bun placed by his side. He then quietly tucked the golden anklet back into his pocket, saying firmly, "I'll keep my promise. Since I took something of yours, I'll help you." Hearing his words, the woman's sorrowful expression brightened momentarily, but quickly faded again. "No, you can't," she said hesitantly. "It'll bring you trouble too." He smirked bitterly, his voice calm yet determined. "Do you think I'm scared of that now? There's nothing left for me to fear." What? Their conversation was suddenly interrupted by a male voice outside, causing both of them to flinch. When the candlelight revealed the speaker, it was a man with a mischievous, monkey-like face. His skin had patches of discoloration, suggesting an illness. Grinning nervously, the man placed 2 coarse buns near the first man. "Here, have these. I saved them for you during dinner. You probably don't know me. I've never had a proper name, so you can call me Puppy," he said eagerly. His tone was full of flattery, making his intentions obvious. He wanted to gain the man's favor, unwilling to remain just another tool in this dreadful place. The first man didn't respond. He simply grabbed the buns and devoured them quickly, his hunger too strong to ignore. Eating too fast, he began to choke. Without hesitation, Puppy darted off and returned with a cup of water. The man gulped it down and managed to finish all 3 buns. Slowly, he tried to stand, his legs trembling from lying on the cold ground for so long. The woman reached out to steady him, but he pushed her hand away. His gaze was fixed on the dark exit ahead. He staggered toward the doorway, his body weak but his mind filled with a fiery determination. His thoughts turned to the one he now considered his enemy, the cruel figure who used human lives to create pills. The mere image of that despicable face filled him with rage. Moments ago he had been consumed by despair, but now anger fueled his spirit. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth, his goal clear. The only thing that mattered now was finding a way to end that man's life.